Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I am your host, Taylor Gonzalez, and I am thrilled to have my guest today, Paul Crowder, who is the director of the brand new, incredible Blue Angels documentary, which is in IMAX right now and also available to stream on Prime Video. Paul, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm doing very well.
Oh, well, thank you for joining me. This is so exciting. I had the honor of attending a screening at the IMAX headquarters a couple weeks ago of your documentary, and it blew me away. I loved every minute of it. And I have to congratulate you because as of right now, it is the number one movie on Prime Video. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, it is indeed, and that's quite incredible. It's had a great run at the box office as well. We're in the top eight, I think, at the box office. So thank you everybody for your support. Thanks for going to see it. Thanks for watching it on Amazon. And everybody loves the Blue Angels. That's what I discovered making this thing. It was when as soon as I got attached to the program, I started telling anybody about it. Everybody knew who I was talking about, what it was, and they were all like super excited. My neighbor is like a jet nut, and he found out. He's a little kid, he's only like 8 years old, and he was just blown away. It was like, oh, you gonna go? Can I come? I wanted to watch the Jets. Brilliant.
That's incredible. But yeah, that's so exciting. How does it feel to have such a huge reaction and such positive reviews, and everyone's just so excited about it?
It's one of those things, you do so much hard work. It takes so much to get a film like this made. It takes so much to get it to where we were at and maintain the quality so for everybody involved, I sit in the big chair, but I'm like, boss pilot, if you like, in the routine. But if he doesn't have his 150 people, like everybody at the top of their game, all doing their job precisely and perfectly, then he can't do his job, right? So, and it's the same for me. So it just takes everybody to do it. And when you get a reaction like this, it's like all that hard work is like payoff. The most important thing for me was that the Blue Angels loved it, and we had an incredible screening last week. The reaction was insane. So the fact that they loved it, that was just like, okay, I'm relieved now. We were all very, very relieved. But then for the public to say, yeah, we love it too, it's just cannot. It's like what you dream for, right? Every time you make a film, you want everybody to react in a positive way, and that's what's happening.
Oh, that is great. Before I had the opportunity to watch your documentary, I knew a little bit about the Blue Angels, but the one thing that really blew my mind watching this was just how close these planes get to each other when they're up there. It
Right.
was, I don't know, it made me very anxious watching it. And I did not know how close they got to each other. Was there something that surprised you when you were filming this that you learned?
Well, I mean, having been in a lot of different positions to shoot this stuff, you do understand the proximity. I mean, you can see it when you're watching the demonstration. I got to watch the demonstration so many times that year, day after day. Sometimes, especially in El Centro, they're flying 2, 3 times a day. And then every day in practice when they're back home in Pensacola or practicing for the shows. So you get very familiar with the stuff, and you can see it getting tighter. You see it getting closer. But it wasn't until I got the footage in the edit bay and I got those cockpit cameras and started getting inside the cockpit and looking at those point of view, or the look back camera underneath number one plane. That's when you really were like, holy moly, this is insane. I really started getting to some more deeper conversations about doing that, and what it takes. And it's all about trust. It's 100% trust. You're putting yourselves, your life, their lives, all in each other's hands. And that goes again all the way down to through the crew chief to the maintenance team and the supply officers and everybody else. They're all putting their trust all the way, and they trust each other implicitly. So when the pilot jumps in the jet, he just starts it and goes. He doesn't do any pre-check. He's got the thumbs up. He's told him, and that trust line is 100%. And it's the same with the guy that's only 12 inches apart or 18 inches apart. You have 100% trust in everything you're all capable of. Otherwise, you don't do it. If it looks like there's any problem, and that will usually come from chumps in the number 4 jet, whoever's in the 4 jet, they might give you a knock it off, and everybody will back off, and you'll reset. So there's constant safety all the time, but it's unbelievable. And as I say, getting that footage and being able to watch that stuff for the first time was really fantastic.
One thing that I really appreciated about your documentary was the perspective that you gave us, because for viewers of the Blue Angels at home and at all these events, you see them from the ground looking up. But in your documentary, we get a lot of above, like aerial shots of them. And I was wondering, I am terrified of heights. I am terrified of flying. Was that an issue for you or for any of the crew working on the film? And if so, how did you get over that fear?
Well, I did really. I have a little bit of a fear of heights as well myself. So my dad had it, a bit of vertigo when he gets a bit way look back. But you sort of like, for me, I didn't have to get into too many of those positions. It was only a handful of times where we were in when we were up high that I had to worry, especially when we were filming out balconies or on top of roofs and things. But the key was to not have this perspective like we all do at the show, was to put everybody in the air with them, put them right in the cockpit, so we can really enjoy the Blue Angels in a fashion that we've never been able to see before. And of course, we were able to do that because the Navy allowed us to use a helicopter, commercial helicopter, within a flight demonstration team for the first time ever. So we got absolutely unique footage, and it just really helps make the film.
That is great. One of the things that I love about visiting the IMAX headquarters is they normally have a IMAX camera on display in the lobby. And
Uh-huh.
to see that thing up close and see the size of that thing, those things are massive. It's just incredible to see. I was wondering, how did you deal with the size of the IMAX cameras when filming this? And also, what were some of the other cameras you used? You mentioned the cockpit camera. I know some of the jets had the cameras on like the wingtips and stuff like that. How did you do all these different cameras and what was it like working with the IMAX cameras?
Well, the IMAX cameras from yesteryear, where they were a film, are very different to the cameras today, where they're digital. So we were using the Sony Venice, which is an IMAX approved camera, and the Sony Venice, the Sony Venice 2 was a prototype of that, which they allowed us to use. They were fantastic, and we also used the Sony RXO cameras, which are small GoPro type looking cameras. We were able to use those for the cockpit because they had the quality level for IMAX. And then the Venice camera is just too big to really get inside a cockpit. The body of it is too large and it's too heavy. It can do it. You can break it down, and was what they did on Maverick, and get it in the back seat. But it wasn't viable for the way we did it. So we used the smaller cockpit cameras, but we did manage to obtain the mounts that they used in Top Gun Maverick to attach the Venice cameras to the wings. So we got those from Warner Brothers very graciously. So they were already Navy approved. We were then able to attach two Venice cameras to the wings and fly. And then Lance Bob Benson, who was a former Blue Angel, he flew the 7 jet and followed the formation with the Venice. So we were able to do that. And we attached it to the back of the number 1 jet for a couple of days as well. So we were able to get those fantastic shots that
Yeah.
where the RXO looks back, you see a lot more of the fuselage. Where we attach the Venice, there's very little of the rest of the number 1 plane, so you just see the rest of the formation behind. So when they were doing the Diamond 360 real close, and they're in the Yankee set, you can really, those views just pay off so beautifully using the Venice. So it was difficult. It's hard, heavy. It's hard to move around. You can't just be fly on the wall. Let's just go run over here quickly. It's so you have to be really sort of prepared for everything you're going to shoot. So you know where you're going to be, how we're going to get the cameras there, what we will get when we get.
Another thing I really appreciated about your documentary was the different storylines that were weaved in about getting to meet the different members and their families and like the impact this has on them. I was wondering, when you set out to do this documentary, was there ever a idea to do this as a series, or was it always going to be a film?
It was always going to be a film. We played with that idea as it comes up in discussions, but no, we never really moved away from the idea that it was always going to be a film. We have enough for a series. I could
Yeah.
have made a very long film, and there was a lot more great detail that we could have included. And in earlier cuts, we talked about a lot more of the personnel and their personal lives, people getting married, people having babies, Kevin Hill and his 219 room at the hotel where he has a party and always jams DJs every night, lots of colors. So lots of characters in there. Henry Cedeno, the XO, I mean, the MO, he was the assistant MO, and an incredible character, a wonderful man, great story coming from Puerto Rico and joining the Navy at a young, and coming over as a kid and seeing the Blue Angels at the end. You know, all of them, like literally 99% of everybody on that team
Mhm.
saw the Blue Angels as a kid and went, I want to do that. And that's their kind of their lead path into the Navy.
Mhm.
And I have to say that happened to me.
Oh,
I was,
wow.
I mean, I'm too old to join the Navy now and be a pilot, but I kind of was like, if I'd done this 20, 30 years ago, maybe I would have maybe thought about signing up because it was just so much fun to be around. They're so happy to be where they are, you know, glad to be here. They're so wonderfully positive about every day. No one's moaning, oh, it's 4 a.m. in the morning, I got to turn the jets over. Everyone's like, hey, it's 4 a.m., high five, let's get jets turned over, you know. And everybody sees each other in the corridor. They all fist bump, say hello, high five, smiles on their faces. 5 minutes later, same people walk about, another fist bump. You know, there's just a incredibly positive place to
Mhm.
hang out, and they welcomed us with open arms. It was wonderful.
Oh, that is great. And that leads to another question that I had for you. You mentioned the 4 a.m., the late nights, the early mornings. How long did it take you to adjust your sleep schedule for working on this film to get used to these long hours and early hours?
It was, yeah, well, it only got difficult because we were a West Coast team. You know, when we flew to Pensacola, you'd get there the day before, and then in the morning you've got to be at the air base in order to climatize the cameras and everything by 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., which is really 2 a.m. Pacific Coast time. So, you know, you've hardly fallen asleep really, but you adjust quickly. You get up in the morning, you do your thing. You're at the end of the day, you're ready for bed at 8 o'clock, and then you're doing it again the next day. And then other days started later, depending. It wasn't always an early start, but you just went with the flow. You do that's what you do, you know. And I'm a night owl anyway, so working late is easy. Getting up early once I'm up, it's not a problem, and it's exciting. You know, you're getting on a base that you know it's dark. You can just see the lights on the runway and everything, and everybody there's like you get as you get closer to the hangar, and then you go through the gate. It's like wow, life is just it's like rocking in there, and music's cranking, and people are happy, and it's exciting. So it was never like, shh, no, it's not that. It wasn't like going to work in an office really early, and
Yeah.
it, how are you doing? Right? It was just like it's like buzzing. It was fantastic.
So you mentioned climatizing the cameras, and that was something that I had not even thought of until the last time that I saw you and you mentioned it. For people who don't know, can you just briefly talk about what that is and how you had to do it to film this film?
Well, yeah, what you know, the humidity levels in Pensacola are pretty high during the period, especially in the summer when we were there doing a lot of the filming. So if you take, you know, we would keep our cameras indoors, which is in a much cooler environment where they were set. But then once you bring them outside, though, all the lenses are going to steam up. So and they can take up to 30 to 40 minutes to unsteam. So basically, you bring everything outside so it gets ready for the heat, and then you know it's the that process has happened by the time you're ready to film. So if you need to be filming, and we had to be filming like uh, in order to get them interviews with them before they started their first brief or the first things of the day, we would have to interview them at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, the latest. So we would have to have the camera, give yourself a good hour to get those cameras climatized before you even get to set up the shot. So it was a process, but you had to do that. We have issues saying we're going high and low when we have the helicopter. When we're at 10,000 feet, suddenly the clouds rolled in and they stopped doing a high show, and they were doing more of a flat show. When we dropped the helicopter down, it went down to 5,000 feet. It just steamed up
Oh,
because the
wow.
humidity level was completely
Mhm.
different, and the temperature. I'm not great with physics.
But that's crazy. That's something that I think people viewing this documentary wouldn't even know about because that's something that I didn't even think about. So that's very interesting to hear about that and to learn that that's something you have to deal with when you're filming in different humidities.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, some of the positives of the humidities is you get these great vapes coming off the plane. And when we shot with the Phantom camera the day we had the Phantom out. It was like 1,000 frames a second, and these vapes were the best they'd been all year. So we got all that stuff on the Phantom. It's just incredible. So the footage was brilliant. So your humidity can be your friend, but it's certainly something you have to be aware of and premeditate in order to be prepared for it. But we had a brilliant team. Jessica Young, the DP, and her Wade Young, the assistant, preparing these cameras for everything was just incredible.
Oh, that is great. So you're also a musician, having been a founding member of Flogging Molly, and you've written music for films like The Pink Panther and Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties. I was wondering how much of the musician aspect of your life plays a role when you're making a film, because the music in this documentary is incredible. And I'm wondering, when you're doing these shots, do you have a little bit of an idea what kind of song or what genre of music you would like for certain scenes?
Yeah, I mean, being a musician really helped with my transition. Being a drummer, editing's all about rhythm, so that very much helps. And you always get thoughts in your head. Well, the other thing about the Blue Angels, if you go see the show, it's just a very eclectic music soundtrack that gets played while they perform. So that's inspiring. So I took in a lot of the music that they were flying to that year and took that on board. I remember watching some dailies back, and songs just flash into your head. It's like, oh, this piece of music with this shot would be great here, and so then you translate that to the score team. And the things with Stuart and James, when making the music, we'd moved away from trying to get too many needle drops, because I wanted the helicopter for another day, so we couldn't afford as much music, needle drop music. So we made that decision in the shooting process that we were going to go in on score. And then James and Stuart just did such an incredible job with the music. But again, I was feeding them sort of like I'd always thought of this piece of music for here or that piece of music for there. So gave them a little bit of a lead in a couple of places. But yeah, that is a big part of when you're making films. You just dream musical soundtracks. I would sit El Centro, like the first couple of weeks there, I'd be sitting in my room and I'd just be listening to Spotify, and then I'd go, this could happen during this. I'd hear a song, like whoever it might be, and I'd write it down in my book. Okay, we could do this scene. What if Jets did this? What if we played this song here? And I was just day after day having all those ideas. And then you get to the actual edit, and what you thought you were going to shoot back in February of 2022, and what you're actually getting by the end of the shoot. It's taking a journey you had no idea you were going to take. So then you get to the edit bay, and you've got now you just got lots of ideas. And I had James and Kevin, two incredible editors, to really help put this thing together. It's just a brilliant process.
Yeah, I really loved the music. I'm curious, so you're also an editor on the upcoming Disney Plus documentary, Jim Henson Idea Man.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you learned while directing this documentary that you carried over to working on and editing the Jim Henson documentary?
I mean, I've directed many other things. Ron and I have worked together on a few films together now. So we just you approach each subject, each project with its own way, and we had ideas. We had some great discussions early on, watched some great footage of Jim Henson's work, and had some really fun discussions and creative discussions on how we could tell this story. So it really didn't relate to the Blue Angels. It was they ended up, they were supposed to be on different schedules, and they ended up joining the same schedule. So it was a mash of two things, but we got there. And the Jim Henson film's fantastic, and that's out next week on Disney.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
cannot wait for that.
Really.
And then I just have one last question for you. So you've worked on documentaries about the Blue Angels, about Jim Henson, about UFOs. Is there a subject out there that you have not worked on a documentary for that you are just itching to work on?
I'm not really. I don't know. I've done all the sports of
Mhm.
skateboarding, surfing, Formula One, soccer. Um, so I don't know. I was talking to Frank Buckley at KTLA yesterday, and he asked me the same question. You've done this. I was sort of like, okay, I've done fast cars. I've done surfing on there. I've done jets. suppose space, but I kind of done UFOs, but maybe the space program, maybe SpaceX. I don't know. So hit the stratosphere, go take it as high as you can. So there's nothing I'm itching to do. I just love to work on great projects. I've got a great project coming up about the super tusker elephants in Kenya that we're working on, and that's a very exciting project too.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I am looking forward to that one as well. But Paul, congratulations on the success of The Blue Angels, which is available now on Prime Video. And congratulations on working on the Jim Henson Idea Man documentary. I literally am counting down the days to see that. That'll be on Disney Plus on the 31st of May. Paul, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this opportunity and just congratulations again on all your success.
Thank you very much. My pleasure, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Best to everybody.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You
You
too.
too. Bye.
Bye now.